Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is Wednesday, the 11th of January, 2023. Welcome to Hindsight, where we learn to be a better trader. We're going to take a look at a few trades today, what could have been done better and what was actually done really well, along with some improvements for the future. Consider this like sort of a video diary or journal. So we're going to take a look at 3 trades today. 2 of them failed and 1 of them went quite well. So we're going to take a look at the first trade. And before I get started on the first trade, just a bit of context. This is COPX or COPX, the Copper Global ETF. A nice rally to the upside, which will form a basis behind our trade, our first trade in the morning. And we also got gold ETF as well, doing quite nicely, sort of breaking out and just popping to the upside. They're really lovely. And you know, there's a bunch of gold and copper stocks that come to mind, but I wanted something on the small cap end, the upper small cap or the bottom range of mid cap, as I'd rather prefer to trade those kinds of stocks. And AIS is one that I spotted that had 3 copper projects, a bit of zinc as well, and a gold project. And I thought, you know, this is exactly what I'm looking for. Not too many shares on issue or anything like that as well, so a good opportunity to move. And we can see the day before it got rejected, but wasn't too concerned about that based on the price action of the copper and gold ETFs. So, moving to the 1 minute chart, this was a very straightforward trade. Didn't even gap up, took some on match, pushed it to the upside as well, and closed it at 64.5 to 65.5 as well. So the idea was to initially trade it into this sort of resistance here between this level here at 66 and 66.5 and that sort of resistance, and just take it there really slow and steady. The price action was very slow. There's a lot of time here that are consolidated previously, 10:15 to 10:45, a good half-hour window of consolidation to exit. And this one took actually a little bit longer. I think it went past 11 o'clock at this point, so it sort of peaked at 11:50 actually, so much longer than I held it for. But there was only a few extra ticks. I'm not too upset about the trade. Sort of it hit what I wanted, rode the momentum, and kind of left it alone. Didn't care about this dip at all. Didn't care about this double top at all. Took the easy trade and got out of there. A very straightforward, brain dead trade, just following the ETFs, because there was no micro cap news today that caught my interest, and so it's just really straightforward trading of mining stocks. So WHC, this one I probably should have paid attention to the daily chart. This was sort of on I guess a bit of a bounce and then a move to the downside. And really, this for me, WHC, I trade it the same every day. It's never different. It's look out for a range break. Right. So you might be wondering, how's the range developed? I've talked about this a million times. It's the opening price and then the moment that it pivots from the top or from the bottom. So in this case, the range was developed in 3 minutes, which is suspiciously short for WHC. The range develops usually over 15 minutes or 20 minutes or hell, even maybe 10 minutes at the shortest end. So I took the short still, but closed it very soon after. So a nice breakdown, got back into range and got back into 2 ticks of range. So here's 5 ticks of range, right? From $9 to $9.05, it got into 902. So 2 ticks into range of a 5 tick range. It's just too much, right? Plus you've got VWAP, plus you got this pivot point here. So close out as quickly as possible and just let it go. So it sort of topped out here. I didn't want to catch it until it broke out. Came back down, and I actually caught it at VWAP as it was coming back down. It just wasn't looking like it was going to sell off. It seemed very strong, especially after this candle here, the volume candle, where it just popped right above VWAP. Now, for you guys who don't trade the range very often, it's very unusual for a stock to break range, come back into range, and then sell back down. Like it just, in terms of probability and statistics, I mean, you just won't see that very often. So to me, this was an opportunity to buy, and it was at VWAP. And as it was coming down, there was this pivot point here, so the opening range still. I don't think that really mattered too much. I think it was more the fact that it was a $9 level rather than the fact that it was a pivot point. But either way, a nice pop to the upside, strong volumes, and that's where I decided to just let it go. So it rallied. If you want to call it a rally, it's a very sort of weak move. and we're just grinding, and this is normally where WHC would just pop again. I don't know what that is. That's an arrow, but that was the expectation. It dipped, sold back down to VWAP. It wasn't on any significant volume. Left it alone because this is the pivot point. This is the retest of the range. It dipped one tick into range. I was getting a little bit concerned about it. Left it alone, and then it popped back up. And eventually, I just had to sell as it was coming back down to retest VWAP again, because by this time, this shouldn't happen. Where you let me just clear up the drawings. To hit a peak, pull back to VWAP, hit a peak, and consolidate at that peak. That's also not very normal as well. About as unnormal as this move here. So it was very unusual. Had to scale out as it was coming down, and just stops were hit because I wasn't even at the screens. I just set stops and walked away, and it did come back down. And you might be wondering, hey, is there another pivot point bounce? No, there's not. That just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. So broken down. Now, the upsetting thing is that I probably should have just shorted it. I mean, seeing it break down through this level here, I really should take advantage of the fact that this is very likely to happen. And we'll see this on the next stock as well, but coming back all the way down late into the afternoon, it's just going to break down. High probability. I mean, worst case, it probably just consolidates, maybe comes to VWAP and then sells off. But really, I think I have a problem with post 11 o'clock trading on larger cap stocks if I don't already have a position. Closing a position is fine, but opening a new one I find it a bit tricky. And I don't know why. I'm not sure why I hesitate to take a trade like this. Probably because I'm looking at the range and it's already done, from $9 to $9.14. It's like, how much sell-off is there left from 2 p.m.? And, well, there's your answer. So I guess 20 cents is the answer there. And it's hard to see in real time and predict it. When you look at it like this from this perspective, it just feels a bit funny to short there. I know I should probably anticipate it. It's very probable, but I think I just need to work on these kinds of trades at this kind of time at around 2 p.m. and just really, really taking into consideration whether I should take the trade or not. TLX is something similar. Now, this is a clear as day range break and something I just missed. And I think I just wasn't paying too much attention to it. I was distracted by other stocks, but a really, really nice range break. And this ended up being a loss because we took the match short and started scaling out the moment it pretty much failed. Pretty much from candle 1, it dropped, and then this pop here to 654 was just like, okay, broken above the first candle. I'm just going to get out. I'm not going to fuck with it. And then it just looked like shorts were just scrambling to cover here, watching the order book. Didn't reopen a short, didn't see a need to. This was kind of an odd looking daily chart as well as an interesting gap up. So it gapped up here at 650 and then it spiked to the upside and it broke these levels here at 660, it got to 670 and it's just kind of didn't really see the opportunity there. Maybe if it got to like 681, but at that point it would just feel a bit too strong and I'm not sure I would have opened a short at 681. I kind of left it alone. I mean, I would not consider this easy money. So the easy trade is, for me, the short and stop out the moment it goes against me. Or short, hold on to it as it breaks down and breaks below 643. Or if I'm going long, I would have got stopped out probably on the very first candle anyway. So I don't think there's a situation where I would have actually profited on the opening drive. I just don't see it. Realistically, and it doesn't matter how many times I play back this trade in my head, I don't see an opportunity to make money on the opening drive. The retest of VWAP, it's just like, it felt so thinly traded. And you can see the volumes are pretty lackluster as well. And the short opportunity really is once it got to this point here. Once it pretty much hit this point. It's like a nice little pivot point. It's some sort of technical reference. Bounces around. Hits that pivot, hits VWAP perfectly, and if this wasn't the signal to go, this certainly was, and then absolutely that was. And it's unfortunate that I missed it. because, yeah, like I said, I was watching something else, and by the time it's coming off, I was just like looking at this. I was like, maybe. Broke down. Should have had a short entry at this level here. I mean, there's so many should, coulds, and woulds, you know, looking back at it. It's just, I was preoccupied with other trades. I really didn't have time to just pay attention to TLX because I thought it might have just consolidated for the day based on its gap up. It was kind of unusual, the gap and rally. You know, didn't cross my mind that a short was an opportunity here, and that was probably me just thinking too much when I just shouldn't have. I should have just looked at it as range break. Like it's that simple. I think the more I think about it, the more I complicate it, and you know, sometimes I miss opportunities because I'm not at the perfect entry. So I miss it because, you know, I'm not at this point in time. I don't see this in time. I don't see the VWAP hit in time, and maybe I miss the breakdown here. And like there's a good couple of opportunities, and even getting in here, I wonder, is it that bad? No, I don't think so. Anticipating the break to the downside. I guess the question really is, how often would a stock just bounce in the middle of nowhere and start going to the upside? There's no levels here. There's no levels if you zoom out in order for this area to hold, right? If there's a short, there's no reason that it should just bounce. So I should probably just go with it a bit more, I think. That's my problem of this 11 o'clock opening a position. That's a little bit funny, I guess. Because range breaks happen usually in the first half hour. And once you get close to this 11 o'clock time, it gets, you know, like I said, it gets a bit funny with liquidity. And I think I'm just overthinking it too much and really should just get in and anticipate trades a bit more, anticipate the breakdown to the downside more. And it's all well and good in hindsight, but, you know, as it's happening, a little bit more challenging to see it and see what can happen and what's possible to happen. So if we see this in real time, this doesn't look bearish at all. Sure, it's doing a little bit of a consolidation, a tightening, and there it is. Breaks down, volume's rising, hits this pivot point very cleanly, hits VWAP, rejected, and that's a short every day of the week. It almost doesn't matter for me where that short is, but again, it's all in hindsight. So I guess I just sort of lacked the attention to trade this one. But anyway, that's the opportunity, and I think I might pay a bit more attention to my post 10:30 trading. Anyway, that's it, guys. Have a good one.